So just to take a step back then to this conversation around the electricity and energy situation in this country, when you weigh up the factors at play, does your department's performance in providing new capacity not weigh in anywhere there to say, in weighing up and piling on to the situation that has led to crisis? I guess the question I'm asking is, if we knock on Andre de Ruyter and Pravin Gordhan's doors and we say, why are we in the dark? And they point to what they point to within the ESCOM system, will part of the explanation not be, what new energy do we give you? We can't give you new energy when no new energy has been added.
Bid window 1 is on the grid. Bid window 2 is on the grid. Bid window 3 is on the grid. Bid window 4 is on the grid. Bid window 5 is reaching financial closure. And others are complaining because that price was dropped very low, and the geopolitics changed the price of the space. They're struggling. But at least 6 that have been given, that have achieved the price closure. Now, and therefore, one of the mistakes and the propaganda of lobbyists is this thing of creating a picture that if you give bid window 5, there will be no load shedding on Saturday, and not explain to society that we give you permit, we give you bid window 5, you build the lead time of 12, 18 months, and even maximum of 24 months to build the facility to generate that electricity. And therefore it is a solution for 12 months or 18 months or 20 months. It's not a solution that is instant.
But it doesn't feel like any of those. I mean, you mentioned them, and I appreciate what you said about renewables and the issue of base load. But it doesn't feel, you're counting the bid window capacity that is already serving the grid, but it doesn't feel like anything has changed.
No, it is already providing just under 10,000 megawatts in the grid. That's one thing. But that's why I say the solution of load shedding is not with renewables. It is with units in ESCOM that are connected but not give us units, energy. And that is what we should put our heads together and push for.
Yeah.
If we do that, I can tell you that we can resolve the issue of load shedding once and for all. Then we can deal with bid windows and all the provisions that are in IRP 19.
Yeah.
We can implement them, solve the problems into the
Okay,
future.
let me ask you things that are specific to you then. Where is the 2,000 megawatts that you promised us, not us, the country and ESCOM and everyone, that would start coming in as part of the risk mitigation IPP project? Where is it?
We approved all of them. In the department, we went through the bidding process, we approved all of them.
Yes, and you announced.
And we announced.
Including saying that some of them would be on stream by August 2022.
That's it.
August 2022
now,
came and went.
Now somebody took, for example, the Kapoor ship to court, and that court case drags on and on. Now, it's an issue that is outside of my authority. I don't drive courts. I am not in the environmental assessment. I approve bids and expect them to go. And what is important about Kapoor ship is that we reject it here because it is gas. But strange enough, it works very well in Ghana. It works well in Cote d'Ivoire. It works well in Gabon. It works well in Senegal. It works well in Brazil. Here we can't because we are a hub of angels at the expense of development. And that issue must be confronted. If we don't confront it, we're going to be in trouble. You know, we push here to close coal mines. When Germany ran into problems, they ordered coal here. We give them coal. They are opening a coal mine. They are dismantling a wind farm to open space for coal mining. It means that they know that they can't sit there and talk about clean energy in darkness. They must continue lighting and then work on renewable.
What will you say to someone that words like those coming out of you as Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy detract from the message of a just transition? Just recently, there were these deals that were, these pledges that were announced. I believe they're about $8 billion US, thereabouts 130 to 150 million South African rand. To hear you talk about that, to talk in the way that you do about how Europe is pivoting back to coal, sounds like you're pining for coal.
In 30 years,
preaching just transition.
In 30 years, UK opened a coal mine for the first time in 30 years. Now, the point I'm making is that when you talk just transition, one of the things that you must not do is to be idealistic. You must be practical and manage that just transition. That's why I say that just transition depends on three things. It must be just, and that means justice must be done. Two, it must talk to people and not numbers. And it must talk to communities and not just talk to a dirty product. And once you address those three issues, your transition is going to be just. That's why in the IRP 2019, we talk about a combination of technologies. Actually, to the surprise of everybody, Europe has declared gas and nuclear as part of green transition. Here, lobbyists hate nuclear, they hate gas, but Europe sees them as part of green transition. All I'm saying is that we are a developing economy. There's a big risk, bigger risk than developed economy. Developed economies have economic muscle, they take their decision, they protect their decision. We are running a risk of being conduits of ideas of developed economies and be stopped from thinking originally and take into account our development.
In fact, you're quoted elsewhere as saying that the developed countries are seeking to use developing nations as guinea pigs.
That's true.
In as far as this idea
That's
is
true.
concerned.
If you throw it as $8.5 billion, $131 billion at the point, to close a sector that had a turnover in 2021 of 130 billion rand, obviously you're making us a guinea pig because you're closing a very vibrant sector in a rush for a song. What I'm saying is that money, we must access it, we must use it, but we must talk to our development program.
So let's take this point to its logical conclusion then, Minister Mantashe. What are you saying? Eskom already has warned us that the shortfall that we're looking at is at the very least 5,000 megawatts. What are we saying? Should we build another power station, coal-fired?
You can build another power station. It can be nuclear, okay? It can be gas. It can be coal. It can be a combination.
Yeah. Should we be doing?
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
We should. In IRP 2019, you will see that we've made provision for 3,000 gas. We've made provision for 2,500 nuclear. We've made provision for 1,500 coal. Why is coal small? It's because our objective is to reduce coal by 15% by 2030 and increase renewable by 18%.
What is the likely impact of failing to read things the way you are reading them in terms of this whole conversation around base load being the challenge, renewables and the intermittent nature and sort of unsuitability for base load support, this whole conversation we just had now about developing nations possibly being guinea pigs when the risk is actually higher? What is the impact of all of that if we don't do some of what you are saying?
We had 3 weeks running of energy summits in Cape Town. All of them appreciate this debate. For example, Africa has the richest deposit of oil and gas today, but everybody say don't touch them. And one country there said to us in an open session, said, listen, we are called to decarbonize. We accept that. But the reality is that in my country, only 12% of citizens have access to electricity. So the debate, therefore, is a debate between decarbonizing, and energy poverty. Now, in the debate for energy, we refuse to engage on the debate on energy poverty, that people have no access to electricity. That poverty is lack of access. It is the question of load shedding, that is energy poverty. It is the question of price of energy, that you have access to electricity, you are connected to the grid, but the price is so high that you use that electricity only for lighting. You still have to collect wood and coal to cook and space warming. So those debates must be opened in South Africa so that society must take informed options. Now, you see, the problem of us as South Africans is that we're quite a highly religious society. If we're threatened, we take resistance irrational because we fear burning in hell. You see, how you get there, you don't even think about it. You do everything to avoid burning in hell. Now, here, in a continent that generates under 33% of pollution and emissions, we are pressured to move faster than the developed countries that actually generate. US alone generate emissions of over 15%. If you take China, it's much higher. And all those, nobody put pressure on those countries or put pressure on this continent, which is the poorest continent and which is emitting the least emissions.
But the impact of climate change is felt by developing nations more than developed nations.
And that tells you...
And coping mechanisms.
It can tell you that we can switch ourselves into darkness, but still feel the impact of climate change. That's what it means. Even if we close everything, we just close everything, we stop development, we sit clean, but because carbon emission do not impact on where they are emitted. They